One of the coolest aspects of merchandise is that it can serve as a time capsule of sorts, showing what a license was like at a certain point of time. And one set that does this very well is the Takara Kirby's Adventure plush set. Released in UFO catchers by Takara all the way back in 1993 to help promote the game Kirby's Adventure, this set of 7 plushes are some of the earliest examples of Kirby merchandise, and it shows. These plushes look very different compared to how Kirby & Co. appear nowadays, and that's what makes them so interesting. Early Kirby merchandise as a whole is some of the most interesting video game merchandise out there in my opinion, because they look so different compared to what's released today. Since Kirby's Adventure was only the second game in the series, many of the characters' designs were not yet finalized, and this shows in the plushes. This set is some of the coolest Kirby memorabilia out there, simply because of how they look. Let's talk about them. Welcome to a look back at the Takara Kirby's Adventure plush set. This set consists almost entirely of Kirby. We have Kirby holding a star, Flying Kirby, Quick Draw Cowboy Kirby, Crash Kirby, and Freeze Kirby. We also have 2 non-Kirby plushes, Being Naughty, and the man himself, King Dedede. In this video, I'll be looking at these plushes individually, stating their pros, cons, and how they compare to modern-day Kirby plushes. And with that said, let's get started. For a character as simple as Kirby, he went through a lot of design changes throughout the years. While they were subtle, there was a definite evolution to his character. As Kirby's Adventure was only the second game in the series, his design was still very early, and as such this plush looks very unique compared to the Kirby we know today. This plush depicts Kirby holding a star, something that was very common on early Japanese promotional artwork. The star is just made of felt and is glued to the plush. His eyes are made of plastic. Notice how there aren't any blue highlights in his eyes. Those weren't added until later. Speaking of differences between this Kirby and modern Kirby designs, his eyes are smaller, as are his hands and feet. He also has black dashes where nowadays red blushes are. All of these combine to make a Kirby plush that looks very different compared to the Kirby plushes we see today. Kirby's mouth is smiling, with dimples, another thing we don't see too often anymore. Kirby's pose is great. He's basically just standing, with his arms upwards, holding the star. Standard stuff, but it looks nice. This set is made out of a very fluffy material, making them very soft and high quality feeling. All of the plushes in this set have gold hang strings. They're very long and have a lot of give to them. The plush set's tag is also quite nice. The front mimics the Japanese box art for the game, with all 7 plushes represented by artwork. You can also see the Takara logo, and some copyright showing that these are official. The back is a bit more interesting though, as it's not universal for all the plushes. The backs typically show 2 characters from the set, in front of a screenshot from the game. For example, here we see Cowboy Kirby and Flying Kirby. I'm not sure what the Japanese katakana reads. Maybe it's a description of the characters, I'm not sure. I don't have pictures of the other plushes tags, but I assume they follow a similar format. As for Kirby's rarity, here's the thing. This set as a whole, despite its age, isn't that rare. Well, in Japan at least. In Japan, most of them are quite cheap. Here's a listing of this Kirby for roughly $25. Not too bad for a plush that's over 20 years old. These plushes are also pretty obscure, meaning not too many people are searching for them, so the demand for them isn't that high. I'd say this Kirby's worth around $30 to $40, possibly more, but that's what I feel would be a good price. Moving on to the next plush, it's Kirby! Again. This time he's flying. This plush is essentially the same as the last plush, so I won't spend too much time on it. Differences between this plush and the Kirby holding the star include his mouth being different, this time showing Kirby with puffed up cheeks instead of a smile. His arms and feet are also in a flying position. Besides that, it's really the same plush as the other Kirby. There's just not a lot to say on it. He's the same color as the other Kirby, he essentially uses the same pattern as the other Kirby, outside of his face and his pose. This plush was probably made as a quick and easy addition to the line, so I'm okay with it. A repost Kirby is better than no Kirby, but all in all this plush really isn't that interesting. As for Flying Kirby's rarity, there's this eBay listing that sold for nearly $60. I'd assume that Flying Kirby was probably made in fewer quantities than Star Kirby, so it being rarer makes sense. Not sure if I'd go with $60 though. And that eBay listing didn't even have a tag. Maybe $60 would be a good price for Flying Kirby with a tag? Not sure. prices for this set as a whole are all over the place, so don't take what I say as definitive. I'm just going off of recent listings. Moving on with the Kirby theme, here's our first power-up based Kirby, Cowboy Kirby from the Quick Draw minigame. You know what else was a minigame in Kirby's Adventure? A UFO catcher. Well, how about that? Anyway, unlike Flying Kirby, this plush actually has a lot of differences compared to the other Kirbys, given how he's decked out in his cowboy outfit. Kirby's now in a running pose, holding a gun? Yep, no mistaking it, this is an officially licensed Kirby plush holding a gun. Yeah, that's something we're not going to be seeing on any new Kirby plushes anytime soon. This Kirby design really was only seen in Kirby's Adventure, making this plush one of a kind. Basically, all of this plush's added features are made of felt. The belt and belt buckles are simple pieces of felt glued onto the plush, and his hat is also made of felt. His gun, however, is plush, with white pieces of felt glued to the sides. His belt wraps around the entire plush, and it even has what seems to be a gun holster. This plush is full of really nice details like that. His hat is made of a simple yellow piece of felt, and unfortunately they can get easily bent out of shape. This does bring up a problem with this set as a whole though. A lot of the details are simply glued to the plushes, and eventually the details may fall off, whether that be from the glue drying up or simply because of the age of these plushes. Remember, these were released in 1993. That's a pretty long time ago, and it's no wonder not much documentation of these plushes exists nowadays. One of my favorite parts about this plush is Kirby's expression. He's got a wide smile, showing his tongue. Of all the Kirbys in this set to have a wide smile, they choose the one running with a gun? Alright then. This plush is really a standout in this set. Not only because this plush defies modern Nintendo standards, but it's also of an obscure Kirby design, and it's really great looking to boot. All around a fantastic plush. This plush isn't all that rare. They definitely made less of him compared to other Kirbys. However, he's still relatively cheap. I don't have any recent American listings to go off of, but here's a Japanese listing for Cowboy Kirby that sold for around the equivalent of $10. But again, I'm not sure how much this plush would go for in America. Again, definitive prices for this set aren't really a thing. I'll go with $20 to $30. The next Kirby plush we'll be looking at today is Crash Kirby. The differences between this plush and the other Kirbys should be readily apparent. First off, he's a different color, now being the orange color seen in the power-up sprite and artwork. He's also got a different expression, quite the different expression at that. Kirby has the big eyes that he has when he's either shocked or hurt. The whites around his eyes are felt, with the pupils being small black pieces of plastic. One of the eyes even has a small teardrop detail, making this look like quite the sad Kirby, which is somewhat uncharacteristic for Crash Kirby. His mouth is a red piece of felt, this time with no tongue detail, once again depicting a sad expression. I really like the colors used on this plush. It's a great shade of orange that really pops when compared to other Kirby merchandise. As for Crash Kirby's rarity, okay, get this. It's hard to believe, given the age and uniqueness of this plush, but in July of 2016, one of these sold on eBay for, wait for it, $7.50. And it had free shipping too. I watched this auction go down. I saw it end at that price. I really wish I went for it. Quite a regret on my part. This was definitely a fluke listing. There's no way this plush is only worth $8. $25 is probably more like it. It's probably worth even more than that though, but I'm not sure. Just goes to show how obscure and overlooked these plushes are if one with a tag could sell for that low. The last Kirby plush we'll be looking at today is Freeze Kirby. Freeze Kirby is another power-up from Kirby's Adventure that simply changed Kirby's color. So, Freeze Kirby is basically a blue normal Kirby plush. The best part of this plush is no doubt the expression he has on his face. He has small beady eyes, with huge angry eyebrows and a really weird looking frown. He looks furious. Why did they make him look so mad? It is based off of this artwork though, and comparing the two, it's actually a pretty good likeness. I really like the shades of blue chosen for this plush. We've got a nice light blue for the main color, and a darker blue for Kirby's feet. Besides the colors and the face, the rest of this plush is standard Kirby affair. He's in a running pose this time, with one hand outwards, and his feet correctly positioned. This is definitely one of the stranger plushes in this set, but it's still really cool. Especially since nowadays Freeze Kirby isn't really a thing anymore, especially with this color swap design. Moving on to Freeze Kirby's rarity, he's definitely one of the harder to find plushes in this set. I don't think I've seen any on eBay, let alone recently. Really not sure on this one. Let's go with $30 if one ever shows up on American eBay. And thus, we're done with the Kirbys in this set. There were 5 of them. That's over 2/3 of the entire set. It was probably a cost-saving measure, but it seems pretty lazy. I do like all of the Kirbys though, and Kirby himself is a character that would require a lot of variants to make a good plush set, so it's fine. Especially considering how early this set was. Being made in 1993, the circumstances make it pretty alright. However, with that said, there are 2 other plushes in this set that are not Kirby. Let's talk about them. The next plush we'll be looking at today is none other than Naughty. Wait, who? The sleep enemy? They made a plush of him? Well, I suppose they could have just made another Kirby, so this is better than that. In fact, Naughty looks a lot like Kirby, so that may be why they made him in the first place. Naughty has big, almost unsettling looking circular plastic eyes. He has a pretty blank expression, with his mouth being a V-shaped line. The main part of Naughty's body doesn't have the standard soft material used on it, making this plush stand out. His feet and sleep cap do use the soft material though. Yep, he has a sleep cap. It's pretty well designed and even has a ball on the end of it. You can probably tell, but it's pretty weird how this guy's color scheme is mainly only 2 colors. Since the NES/Famicom was limited in the amount of colors it could display at one time, many of the characters in Kirby's Adventure had to be designed around that limitation. That explains Naughty's simple color scheme, and why it doesn't look like how Naughty looks in more recent games. As for Naughty's rarity, this is where the set starts to pick up in terms of value. Him and King Dedede are the only 2 plushes in this set that aren't Kirby, and as such they're a lot more valuable than the Kirbys. Takara most likely made less of them, given how they're a lot less recognizable than Kirby, especially at the time of Kirby's Adventure's release. I know there's gotta be at least someone out there who's just the biggest Naughty fan, but really, if you were at an arcade in 1993 and saw these, would you go for Naughty, or one of the many Kirbys? Chances are you'd go for the Kirbys. I know I would've. So, there's a good chance Takara just didn't make too many of Naughty compared to the other plushes in this set. However, Naughty isn't exactly the most popular of Kirby characters, so chances are outside of collectors not too many people really want to get him, meaning there isn't much demand for him. What I'm saying is that while there are certainly fewer Naughtys lying around, that doesn't mean it's very desired. Here's a listing for a tagless Naughty that was on eBay. The seller is asking $48 for Naughty. I'm not sure if this is really a good price, and of course with his tag Naughty would go for more, but let's say a good price for Naughty would be anywhere from $50 to $60. The last plush we'll be looking at today is King Dedede. Being the main antagonist of the game, and one of the key characters, it makes sense that King Dedede has a plush in this set. Dedede's design has always been changing. He started out looking a lot more chibi and cute, but over time has become taller with more pronounced features, and overall looks a lot more villainous than his earlier designs. Then he kinda just went back to the earlier design. It's complicated. Nonetheless, here's the Kirby's Adventure King Dedede plush. Obviously, he's based off of his original design from the game, looking quite different compared to modern Dedede. His design as a whole is a lot more simplistic than what we're used to today. Like I said, he's a lot cuter than what he looks like today. His clothing, such as his robe, all looks perfect. It's the red color it should be, and has the white lining that makes it look really nice. He is missing his signature emblem on the back of his robe though. The earlier designs of Dedede did not include that. He also lacks his mittens. He does, however, have his zigzag band going across his stomach. The amount of details on this plush arguably makes it the best plush out of this entire set. His face looks great. He has large plastic eyes, with the correct overlaid details on them. His beak is nicely patterned, with his mouth being indicated by a black strip. His hat also looks just like it should, and the white ball on the top is nicely positioned and once again, looks great. His feet are large and nicely stuffed. You can definitely tell that this plush's proportions are completely different than what we see today. This plush is fantastic. It looks very accurate to how Dedede appeared in the artwork back then, and considering how the rest of this set is very simplistic, Dedede having so much detail is very much welcomed and makes him stand out compared to the rest of this set. You know how most of the plushes in this set aren't really worth that much? Yeah, Dedede's the exception. King Dedede merchandise is almost always guaranteed to become valuable in the future. Despite being a very important character to the series, he just doesn't get much in terms of merchandise. There are only a handful of Dedede plushes out there, and given how this one in particular is not only very old, but it also depicts Dedede using an older design that just isn't used anymore. All of that combines to make this plush very, very rare. This one listing asks for $300 for him. While I'm not sure if this ever actually sold, the fact that someone would even consider $300 as a good price for him shows how rare he is. I'd say $300 is probably on the higher end of what he's worth, but I don't have any other listings to go off of. I was going to say $250 would probably be a good price for DDD, though given how this $300 listing is from 2013, he may actually be worth even more than that now. Let's just stick with $300. There's one last thing I need to bring up before I end this video, and that's bootlegs. Whoa, this set was released in 1993, there's no way there could be bootlegs, right? Wrong. Some bootlegger out there managed to get these plushes, or at least most of them, and faked them. Can I just say, I hate having to talk about bootlegs. I really feel like they shouldn't get any representation given how they're just cheap imitations. But they're part of this set's history, so I guess I have to go over them. It is important to note that as far as I know, not all of the plushes in this set were faked. King Dedede doesn't seem to have any fakes of him. Guess he was just too rare for the bootleggers to get a hold of one. It also seems like Flying Kirby wasn't faked, probably since there were already plenty of Kirbys to fake. However, that does mean that all other versions of Kirby and Naughty were faked. The fakes look a lot worse than the official ones. They have this uncanny look to them that makes it really easy to tell that they're fake. Also, in the case of Freeze Kirby at least, they really messed up the details. As you can see, they accidentally printed his mouth upside down. Whoops. Also, while most of the plastic details seem to be left intact, fake Naughty uses some other material for his eyes. So how does one look out for bootlegs when looking for this set? Well, for starters, compare the one you may buy with an official one. If it looks off, it's fake. While these plushes in general don't go for much, they are still decently expensive. So if you see one for really cheap, it's fake. Also, the fake ones don't have the paper tag, so be on the lookout for that. Oh, and as always, if it's coming from China or Hong Kong, chances are it's fake. All around, it should be pretty easy to tell if one of these is real or not, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue. This set is definitely one of my most wanted sets out there. Though, given how infrequently they pop up, and how expensive they sometimes can go for, I'm unsure if I'll ever be able to complete it. Hopefully someday, though. This set serves as an excellent example of early Kirby memorabilia. They're some of the earliest Kirby plushes ever, and that makes them really, really cool. Over the years, we've seen tons of really great Kirby plush sets, but a lot of them look really similar to each other. This set breaks the standard Kirby plush mold, giving them lots of charm. Without a doubt, one of my favorite Kirby plush sets, and they're easily some of the most unique Kirby merchandise out there.